Hey friends, welcome to our podcast, Theology Unplugged. We are coming to you on YouTube and on whatever podcast kit feed you are watching this on. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to respond to somebody that is on theology or TikTok, our theology talk our theology talk session. Yeah, that's it. But we've done a few of those, so check those out. But this one's going to be responding to a guy that has left the faith and a girl that's responding to him. We'll just listen to it, see how it goes. Also going to talk about the sanctity of God's reputation and the importance of that and how we speak about God. Really coming down to prophecy. I mean, it has a lot to do with prophecy and being careful whenever you say to somebody, God has told me to tell you, or I think God is telling me that we need to be careful. We'll talk about that in a moment. And also something very personal, but we've got to start off. We've always got to start off with the great music that Greg Cromartie did for Theology Unplugged.
Hermeneutics of eschatology demand an exegetical approach.
Isn't that blasphemy? I love that. Isn't that great? I can't let go of that. So anyway, let's get started first by reminding you that you need to subscribe. Subscribe to YouTube and click that button that gives you a message every time I do something. And let's go ahead and get started with our theology talk. Here's our guest.
Instead of me proving to you that God is real, why don't you ask God to prove to you that he's real?
I was a Christian for 21 years. I never wanted to become an atheist. The only reason I became an atheist was because I wanted to pursue truth and make sure that what I believed in was true. It was far from an overnight process. But when I got to the point when I did start to seriously doubt if God existed, that's exactly what I did. I asked him for help. I prayed probably stronger than I've ever prayed before because although many bad things have happened in my life, losing the belief in God felt like the absolute worst. Now, I know there's Christians that are going to flat out say that I'm lying, that I believe in God still, but I want to sin. There are others that'll say, well, you were never a Christian at all. You never believed. And neither of these things are true. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in church, and I was a devout believer because I believed it was true. So I don't ever want to hear this stuff about, you're not looking for God hard enough. You didn't try hard enough. Because let me tell you, the reason that a lot of believers say this is because they're afraid. And it's because of that fear that they reject the idea that other people can genuinely just not believe in God. That other people can go from Christian to atheist. So when I hear comments such as,
There's facts, and then there's faith.
I gotta tell you, I agree. But I don't think it's a good thing. Faith is a tool used when the facts aren't there. Because if I try to convince you to believe in another God based on faith, you probably wouldn't do it.
That was pretty sad. I mean, not sad in the sense of sad that wrong or whatever. It's just sad. I hate to see that. You know, I deal with people that doubt all the time, and whenever I see somebody that leaves the faith and is past the process. I don't know this guy. I don't know what his TikTok's like or anything like that. Maybe he is an evangelistic atheist now. He's gone through the process of leaving the faith, and now he is antagonistic towards the faith, or antagonistic in the sense of just trying to pull people away or tell his own story so much that other people will leave. You may not know that he's antagonistic, but that sometimes, I don't know. He may have just been responding to this girl because he did one video about how he left the faith. But either way, that was his story is, he was 21 years. He don't look that old, be 31 years. Well, maybe he was. 31 years as an atheist or as a Christian, going to church and being involved in church. Now, is this common? I mean, of course it's common for people to express their doubt in the faith. And we need to do that. That is something that, I mean, if you haven't done, you need to instigate it. Or parents should be doing this with their children, challenging them and causing their mind to get roadblocks that they have to work through. Many times we grow up in the church and we grow up in the faith, and it's never really challenged. And so there is this love that we have for Christianity that builds throughout our lives, from whenever we're young until whenever, if this guy was 31 or however old. but you love the process. You love going to church. You love the people. You love sharing the gospel. Feels like it is meaningful. It has purpose. And you can go through all that process. And he said, some people are going to tell me that I never really believed. Well, of course, I don't think he ever really believed in the same way, from a belief that comes as God comes and opens your heart, and you have a change, a new birth, and that new birth has a new spirit, and that's what causes you to move forward. Some people live their whole life, or a long time in their life, they're going through the motions, and then they get to a point where it is challenged. And that's the first time they've ever really thought about their faith in such a way that he said the very thing. He said, I started to think about it. What is really true? Now that's interesting, because why didn't he say that earlier? Well, most of us don't. Most of us don't come to that time until we're in our 20s or in our 30s, and we say, look back upon our lives and what our parents have taught us and what we've grown up with, and we say, is this really true? And it's really important for us to get to that point where we ask that question again. And the earlier, the better. We need to be those who challenge the faith and not just tell people to walk in blind faith. We need to not necessarily assume that everybody has true faith. I know that sounds bad, but we really have to. Many people don't have true faith, and they never get challenged. And so he got his faith challenged, and he walked away from the faith. Now, he seems to be more satisfied now. He seems to feel that, while it was a traumatic experience going through that change, I'm glad I'm here because I'm with the truth. That's his idea of being an atheist. And you do have that quite a bit among people who are leaving the faith or doubting their faith. And really, there's only two types of people whenever you get to this crisis point in your life and in your faith. And there's the people, I'm going to use this word because it's true. There's the people who have true faith, and there's the people who have just nominal faith that they've been carrying with them, but they've never really engaged in and had the new birth. So there's two types of people. The one type that gets to this point, this crisis point, and it hurts. And the change isn't, they don't feel good about it. It is something that they hope they can resolve and stay Christian, stay a believer, stay within the faith, because they don't want to change. I mean, nobody likes change. And so there is an emotional engagement that comes to us and hurts us deep. It's a visceral feeling of loneliness and fear, great fear that comes over. But at the same time, whenever somebody like this is moving away from the faith, it is not so much that they are moving away with their, and I think of it this way, think of Christ being in front of you, and you're moving away either backwards with your hands out towards him, crying out to him to bring you back, or you're walking away in a sense of your back's to God, and you feel like you're having kind of an enlightenment, but it hurts to have this enlightenment. But it's not as if your relationship to Christ is central. Now, I'm just guessing here. I've never walked away from the faith in such a way. I have doubted my faith extremely. I have doubted it in such a way to where I thought it was gone and I was losing it, and I didn't want to leave Christianity. I did not want to leave Christ. It hurt very bad. And that's my reference point. Now, I have struggled because, I've talked to dozens, maybe hundreds of people who are doubting their faith. And I have struggled because I wonder about some of these that I hear about and read, that guy being one of them, about the emotions he went through at the time whenever he was losing his faith, and whether or not those emotions were the same type of emotions that Christians would feel if they're doubting their faith. All we know is he left the faith. All we know is he came to the conclusion that Christianity is not the truth, and that he has found the truth. And, I'm glad that he's sincere with who he is at this point. I'm not glad that he's not a Christian at all. It's terrible. But I don't know what caused him to doubt the faith, and I don't know what it is that he went through. But true engagement in the intellectual side of Christianity will always, if you are objective, bring you to the point of faith. It will. It just has to. It's a non-negotiable answer to a question that is the most important question. I don't know. I just want people who doubt not to doubt anymore. I really do. I feel ever since I went through it, it hurts me deep down inside. And I'm sorry the guy doubted the faith. I'm not saying necessarily she was wrong. I mean, I would never say to somebody, just pray more sincerely. That's what you're doing wrong. I don't know whether that's what they're doing wrong. So, need to be careful with that. And we need to just do the best we can with people and let them go where they may and trust God. We got to trust God. We've got to have the faith. Now, he did say at the end that faith is something that he basically said it's a blind faith. There's either faith or there's truth, and that's not true. I mean, at all. Faith is something that we engage in because of the evidence, not in spite of the evidence. We believe in God because it's compelling to our minds and to our hearts. We believe that Christ rose from the dead because it's compelling historically to our minds and to our hearts. That is, faith is not something. There is a type of faith where it's just completely blind. I mean, you just step out and you don't know from an intellectual standpoint whether it's true or not. You just are emotionally committed to it. I know that. But that's not really the type of faith that Christians should have and that we should talk about. Okay, now I want to talk about some couple passages in Genesis. I want to talk about the importance of God's reputation, God's name. I want to talk about, the third commandment, where it says, "You shall not take the Lord your God's name in vain." What does that mean? I think that's that is the least understood commandment of all the 10 commandments, at least in my view. I believe it is. You shall not take the Lord your God's name in vain. Normally, whenever you translate that to people today, it's you shall not say God, D-A-M-N. You shall not, say Jesus, something like that. Sorry if you think I just took God's name in vain. Please at least set that aside for now as I do it for illustrative purposes, not to offend you. I don't believe that's what it means. But what does it mean to take God's name in vain? It's a third commandment. I mean, there's only 10 commandments. And so it's got to be something significant. It really does. And just God getting offended because we cuss or we curse or something, I don't think he does. I don't think that's any big deal unless it is offensive, unless it does something to people around you that offends them and you're intentionally doing it that way. But I don't believe cussing in and of itself is a sin. I don't necessarily cuss. It wasn't brought up that way. I'll use stronger words here and there whenever necessary because that's what they're used for. Vulgar talk sometimes. I mean, it depends on the circumstance, I mean, I might have vulgar talk in one circumstance, but, definitely not in others because I don't want to offend. Acceptability is the issue. So set that aside. It's not about cussing. It's not about saying GD. This is very serious. Whenever God says, "Do not take my name in vain," you got to understand what is his name? What does he mean? Take my name. Okay. Now, a lot of times we focus on the word take, but let's focus upon the word name. What is name? What is it in the name? Well, I mean, basically, we have this today as well. It is the authority and reputation. The authority and reputation is what the name means. So, let's take somebody who comes from an American representative who goes to Iran, and he's the ambassador. And he says, "I come in the name of America to speak on America's behalf." And he does because he represents it. And the name of America that he brings with him is all the reputation that we have. And so to speak in somebody's, and I think that's exactly what it means here. We are not to take God's reputation. We are not to take God's his legacy. It is very important for him to protect his legacy. So this is the essence of what's going on here. God comes down and he says, "Hey, I got to protect who I am or who people think I am and how people not necessarily talk about me, but how people think about me and can misrepresent me, can misrepresent my reputation." So that's number one. And then you say his name in vain. How do you do it in vain? Well, vain just means worthlessly. Empty, in an empty way. So if you're going to take God's name and you take it in vain, you're saying, I'm going to take his reputation and tear it to shreds. I'm going to take his reputation, misrepresent it. I'm going to take his reputation and make it something that it's not. That means that's what taking God's name in vain means. Misrepresenting God. So he says to all the people, he says, the whole world, whenever you talk about me, whenever you represent me, be careful. I mean, doesn't that make sense? It does, doesn't it? I mean, it makes sense now that it's the third commandment. I mean, if it's don't cuss, I mean, what a trivial thing. But I don't think there's any evidence at all. I mean, you look through the entirety of Scripture, and God's protecting his name. I mean, it is something that he cares much about. In Deuteronomy, he talks about this. Deuteronomy chapter 18, if you remember, it says, 18 verse 17, the Lord said to me, they have spoken well. I will rise up a prophet from among their countrymen like you. He's talking to Moses. And I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. Now, this is Abraham. This is the prophecy about Christ, the prophet who will come. Christ is the Messiah. He was prophesied to be a prophet who spoke everything right about God. But then he says, it shall come and pass that whoever will not listen to my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. So the authority that Christ comes, or this coming one, this coming prophet will have. And then here's the contrast, verse 20. But the prophet who speaks a word presumptuously, here we go, presumptuously. What does that mean? That's empty. That's in vain. That is just, you're just... You think you can do this. You think you can use his name, his reputation. You think you can speak on God's behalf. But the prophet who uses my name presumptuously. Who's the prophet at this point? Well, the prophet is basically anybody. It's not just you have to claim to be a prophet and then you go use his name. It's anybody who claims to speak on behalf of God automatically is claiming to be a prophet. You are. You know, if you said God said to me, or God is telling me, those kind of things, you're claiming to be a prophet. So you that's you right here. But the prophet who speaks a word presumptuously in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak. I know it's here. I mean, this is something, it's not you just think it. It's not just, you have a feeling. It's not just, I wonder if this will be encouraging if I say this to this person in God's name. It is you only speak in his name if he has commanded it. He's got to command it. So what happens to this prophet? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, but the prophet who speaks presumptuously my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or which he speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. So this is a misrepresentation. You may say in your heart, how will we know the word of the Lord which he has spoken? Now, this is one of protection. This is one where God is saying, hey, sometimes there might be a time whenever people speak on my name, and you're sitting there wondering, I wonder if this guy really is a prophet. I wonder if this is really true. Somebody comes up to you and says, God told me to tell you, or whatever. I wonder if this is really true. Well, how do we know it's true? How do we know this guy's a prophet? Here we go, verse 22. When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not come true, or the thing, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him. Now, this introduces this idea that a prophet will give some type of prophetic sign. In other words, prophecy, here's the definition of prophecy. This is important. Prophecy is speaking on behalf of God. That's what a prophet is. What you say is what God says. Now, a prophecy sometimes we look at as something that's predicting the future, because that is often what a prophet is required to do, not just to predict the future and, be really cool and, wow, he predicted the future. But in order for his testimony, whatever he's saying, to be credible, in order for it to prove that he is from God. Because anybody can come to you and say, I have a word from the Lord for you. Anybody can. That's the easiest thing in the world. Remember Jesus, whenever whenever the mat was taken, he was in there teaching and healing, and then this guy that was paralytic was lowered down on a mat through the roof, and then the Pharisees were looking around and they said, "Is he gonna heal somebody on Sunday?" That's all they cared about. And Jesus, knowing what they were thinking, he looked at them and said, "Which is easier to say? Your sins are forgiven," which is what he told the man, and they got mad about it. That's easy to say. It's easy to say to anybody, your sins are forgiven. But how do you know that your sins are forgiven? Because that's a prophetic word. How do you know they're forgiven? And so Jesus said, which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or get up and walk? Obviously, we know that, right? Get up and walk is impossible to say because it has immediate repercussions whether or not you know it's true. It's not just a subjective thing. It's something that's objective. If the guy gets up and walks, then it is from God. But if he just says your sins are forgiven, then we don't know. We're wondering. We're left wondering. Well, this sets up this paradigm, this protocol, prophetic protocol, that says when God speaks through somebody, they will always be able to prove it. And there's nothing wrong with this. Anytime, I don't say this to people all the time. There are a lot of people who've come up to me and said, the Lord told me to tell you. I don't immediately say, show me a sign or something like that. There are sometimes I do. But that's the only time I will ingest it, truly ingest it, and believe that it's from God, if the guy has somehow showed himself to be a prophet through some type of wonder, sign, or anything. Now, has that ever happened? No, it hasn't. I want it to. I do. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 1, and at the very end of 1 Corinthians chapter 14, it says the same thing. Desire that you may prophesy. Prophecy is the best gift of the Spirit. I understand it is, because I would love to have a word from the Lord. I would love for somebody to come and legitimately say to me, Michael, here's what the Lord is telling me about you. I'd be excited. There would be something deep down in my heart. I would feel loved. I long for it. That's my point. I want it to happen. But my longing for it does not alleviate me of the responsibility of looking at passages like this and saying, I can't believe you unless you do something. Get up and walk to a paralytic, prophesy the future, make the skies start to rain, or whatever. Any type of miracle. Now, that's criteria one in the protocol. Protocol number one, God set up is saying, hey, whenever I speak, I will give you a sign. There's protocol number two. Protocol number two also comes in Deuteronomy, and this is Deuteronomy chapter 13. And in Deuteronomy chapter 13, it starts at verse 1, and says, if a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you and gives you a sign or wonder. Now listen to this. You've got the prophet coming and actually performing a miracle. So he's past protocol number one, right? He's legit. If he's doing something, if he's causing it to rain, if he's healing the blind or whatever he's doing, predicting the future and it comes to pass, then you say, wow, okay. But there's still another step. I'm still timid. I'm still not going to listen to you yet until until you do something else, or I won't listen to you if you violate this particular protocol. So if a prophet or dreamer of dream comes among you and produces a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder he tells you comes to pass, and if he says, let's go after other gods which you have not known, you shall not listen to him. You see, he has done the sign or wonder, healed the blind, done a miracle, and he's saying, hey, now that I'm a prophet, let's go after other gods. Let's don't follow Christ anymore. Let's change the Bible. Let's go against the morals of the Bible. Well, at that point, you would say, you have failed. Because protocol number two is, this person has to abide by that knowledge, that prophetic understanding, that which has come before. He has to abide by all these prophecies and all that God has spoken many times in many ways. Various times in various ways, and here we have all this data of him is contained in the Bible. and then somebody comes and speaks against the Bible, even though he does a miracle, automatic wrong. Done. So why did he do this? Listen to this. It says, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or the dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Isn't that interesting? He's testing us. I'm sure he still does it today. I mean, there are times whenever maybe you do see something extraordinary, a miracle or something from someone, but whenever they speak, whenever they tell you what to do, it is wrong. It is something that is against what the Bible has already said. God tests you. So the protocol is two things. Number one, if you come up to me and say, God has told me to tell you, I'll say, give me a sign or a wonder, something that is compelling, that tells me you have access to the divine. Number two, you got to speak in accordance with that which has already been spoken. Now, this assumes you know it, so this is important for you to know it. But what does protocol number one actually involve? It involves knowing what God has already said, studying the Bible, everything that we do, having a love for God's word so that we can identify whenever somebody speaks against the Bible. Isn't that cool? I mean, I love this. I mean, I am sorry. Listen, this does have to do a lot with charismatic stuff. It does, and it worries me in charismatic circles. The main thing that worries me in charismatic circles is this, that they use God's name in vain, and they do it continually. Now, I'm not saying all charismatics do that at all. I promise I'm not saying that. And if you're charismatic, please don't say I'm just saying this is an argument against the charismatic church. It's not. It's just a requirement for the charismatic church. It's a requirement for people who believe in prophets today to follow by this. And you have to ask yourself, are you following by this? Do you really love God's word so much, his reputation? Do you want to protect him? Or do you just want so bad to hear from him that you bypass everything he has said, all the protocols? I know it's easy to do that because I'm influenced. I've been to charismatic churches. I love a lot of charismatics, got very many friends. I don't mean to jump on them too much, but I do think there is a serious issue here that they usually don't follow. They could, but they don't. And people have come up to me and said, Michael, God has told me to tell you. And, left and right, tried to do all kinds of prophetic things from God, saying, this is what God is. I mean, I'm so serious about this. I don't like people even manipulating conversations, manipulating advice, even saying, I think God's telling you to do this. I don't like that, because what you're doing is trying to borrow from his reputation, just a little bit maybe. I think God is telling me to tell you this. To make them listen a little bit more. I think God is telling me, guys, that we need to start the Credo House again. No, I mean, the best you could do is say, I'm working through whether or not God is trying to tell me to start the Credo House again. And I am. That is true. And I can't really say I think God is telling me that, because I think it'd be manipulative. Now, I'm really manipulative if I came to you and said, God is telling me to start the Credo House again. That would be something that definitely goes over the line of protecting God's reputation, the third commandment, because I'm borrowing from his reputation. I'm borrowing from his authority. I'm trying to manipulate you guys. Because my words by themselves don't have quite enough power. If I said, I'm thinking that I should do it, compared to, I believe God is telling me to do it, much different, right? God's word is something we just don't play around with. That's the deal. It's the third commandment. It's a big deal. It really is. And I think we need to really think about this more often, how we use God's name and protecting his name to ourselves in our own mind and in our churches, in our fellowships, that kind of stuff. Now, be kind to people. And don't jump all over somebody who maybe does this. Just try to gently correct them and lead them to the word. Gently, kindly, with compassion and understanding. Passion, yes, you can be passionate about it, but just be compassionate about it. Okay, one more thing here. I don't even know if I want to put this up here. This is the hardest thing for me to do, and I'm just going to do a little short one right now. what do I say? Are you watching me on video? Hey, you guys who are listening to this podcast, go watch the video. It'd make more sense. But one thing that has happened. Okay, last 10 years I have gone through a lot of problems. You guys know this, from the pain pills and the addiction and to just broken foots and hospitals. It's been crazy. Now, I think I have found the primary problem that has been there the whole time. I've said this before. It's from sleep apnea. I've had sleep apnea for a long time, and it's been caused incredible problems in my life. I do have sleep apnea still, but I finally am sleeping. I feel better than I felt in 10 years. In 12 years, I really do. I'm more active. I'm more excited. I'm pushing forward more than anything. I've got ideas like crazy that are from God. I'm just kidding. They're not from God. But I do have a major problem, and I got to have your help. No, it's not finances. Well, it is finances, but that's aside. I do have a major problem. I need your help. If you've listened to the end of this, thank you. And please do subscribe at YouTube. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff. Here's the deal. I've got to lose a lot of weight. I am so overweight. God, that's hard to say. I'm probably not even going to put this out there because I'm too scared. Anyway, that's it. I am. And I'm prideful in a certain way. But not only that, I'm just very unhealthy because of the weight. Look at this video. If you watch this video, here's what I do is I zoom this camera in and I make sure this camera is just right so that you don't see how big I am. But I am getting really, really big. Look at this. It's just, and you know how I used to be, fitness trainer. I used to do seminars on how to lose weight. I've had a compassion my whole entire life. I have. No, wait. Maybe you didn't see that. I need to get to the other camera. Here we go. Oh, that's bad. That is so bad. That is so bad. Listen to all of y'all. In some sense, I'm very sorry for getting like this. I don't know how it happened. And I've got to correct it. And I'm going to correct it. This is the deal. I'm going to correct it. So what I'm committing to right now, once I publish this, I'm not going to publish. I'm too scared. Okay. I am. You can't stop me. But you can't help me. You can go, whenever you come over to YouTube, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I still haven't decided exactly how I'm going to pull this off in the sense of keeping accountability. I may just do it through this means or through TikTok or through another YouTube channel. Either way, go subscribe to my stuff. Go to my Patreon page. Patreon page is the best thing for you. Do I have a Patreon page thing on here? I know I do, don't I? Maybe I don't. Let's see here. There we go. You go to my Patreon page. Oh, this is about money. Well, you can do this too. I really need you to do this. On my Patreon page, this is where I kind of filter all my stuff through. This is how I get support now, or the primary means of support. I also get it through Credo courses some, but this is the main way. As you can see, you can subscribe, you get prizes, and then also once you subscribe, you get access to lots of things that I do, recent posts, and I try to filter most everything through here that I'm doing right now. So Patreon page, check that out, and subscribe, please. At any level, I do need your support personally, and God hasn't told me to tell you to support me. And I live in just as much wonder as you do about what God's going to do next. But subscribe to it because I'll be keeping updates. And the more people who subscribe, go over to YouTube, like this video. I'm not just saying that just to do it because really, if you go over there and like it, I'll look and I'll see how many people have watched this. Now, I put it at the end. So you may have not watched or listened to the end. And so maybe I don't get that many people. But it's not if I get enough people. I really have to do this. I think that there'll be serious complications to my health very soon if I don't take care of this weight problem. And it's not as easy as I thought once I started sleeping. So go over there, subscribe, show your support somehow. Just put on the comment on YouTube or send me an email. I don't know, michaelp@credohouse.org. But do anything just to let me know you're following me and you're encouraging me. And please pray for me too. I know that a lot of you may be in the same situation, and so maybe following me and watching as I go, you'll be able to be helped as well. I'm going to be doing some really cool stuff, I think, as far as the weight loss, if there's such a thing as cool stuff. But I'm going to be testing out different things. I'm going to be doing it in public. So watch this. God, I haven't told my family about this. I mean, I don't even want my family. I hope nobody in my family listens to this, because the accountability that immediately comes from them, I don't like it. It makes me mad, but that's just me. And I need it. I do need it. So if you're in my family and listen to this, I guess tell me, because I'm not going to tell you for a while. I'm just going to try to lose the weight. It's embarrassing, guys. It really is. It's embarrassing to have gained this much weight, and it's hard for me to say this. I think I weigh, I'm not going to say it. Yeah, I am. I think I weigh around 400 pounds. I know, I swear. But I'll get it taken care of. I will. I did lose some weight a few years ago, and just hang with me, okay? Here's the deal. I'm going to stay encouraged. I'm not going to be sad. I'm not going to be scared. I'm not going to be embarrassed. I'm trying to get it out here right now. I haven't published this yet, so I may just hit delete. But help me out in one way or another. I'm going to lose this weight. I'm going to lose 200 pounds. Within the year, I'm going to lose 200 pounds. That's my goal, and that's my commitment. And God hasn't told me that, but I'm still going to do it. So anyway, we are Theology Unplugged. I'm really excited that you listened, and hopefully you're glad we're back.